what I have here is a nice little Enya engine. This is an Enya 09 Mark IV that I was sent with a box of engines to take a look at, run, clean up, that type of thing. So this is one of 3 of this size engine I received. The other 2 was an OS FSR 10 and an OS 10 FP engine. This is the 3rd of this size engine I've got, so I thought, even though it does have a very good external appearance, I thought it might be interesting to kind of take an inside look at this thing, see if there's any issues or anything I need to clean up. So I'm going to start with removing the carb. Now I have to confess that I have opened up enough of these older Japanese engines in the past to know that before I even attempt this anymore, I hit all fasteners with oil, 3-in-1 oil, and a pretty liberal amount of heat, just because these fasteners that the Japanese used to use were so soft that it was very easy to strip the head. So I've heated this all up, and I've already kind of broken the fasteners free too, so I know I'm not going to damage anything there. So here's this little carb on this thing. Now one of the things that's interesting here is this is an air bleed carb, much like the OSFP carb, but the 10 FSR carb did not have an air bleed nor an idle adjustment screw at all, although it looked physically like the same carb body, and it had the little boss there for the air bleed. There wasn't an air bleed. So again, this is an air bleed carb, so you can't actually adjust the low end on it. It doesn't have a throttle stop screw, but this screw here that actually retains the barrel in there kind of does dual duty, and it does act as a throttle stop. You can just screw it in further and it'll keep the barrel from closing fully. So with this off, looking inside here, just looking at the crankshaft as it rotates through there, it doesn't look like there's much runtime on this thing. I mean, it feels like it rotates fairly smoothly. Now, also like the FP and the FSR engine, this is a non-bearing engine. It just has bushings, or a bushed bearing, I guess you could call it. So let me take this muffler off. Okay, that's not the right size. That one doesn't fit either. That's odd. I wonder... Oh, that's disturbing. These screws are standard that are screwed into this muffler. So I just tried my 2 metric wrenches and neither of them fit, but yet this standard 3/32. So I don't care for that, because I guarantee you this muffler was supposed to be threaded with metric thread, so now it's been wallered out. These 2 screws aren't even the same length. I really don't like that. That's unfortunate. But it doesn't look like it's any worse for the wear, really. There's a gasket on there. I'm not going to worry about messing with that gasket. Take a look inside here. Wow, this is a strange design. I've never seen one. I've never done an engine this small before, but there's just a very small opening there for the exhaust. So this should be interesting to get this standard socket out of here. Okay, these are all cross points. That's another thing. These cross points, I wish they would have just always used, hex keys. These cross point screws, if you don't have the right JIS tip, cross point tip, you're not going to really get a good fit in there. Like I said, I did lube these, or hit them with oil and heated these up and broke them free, so I know I'm not going to have any issues with these. Those are my head screws. Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, this is one of those engines that's like got the baffle on the piston. Rotate this thing up, should be able to see that baffle on the top of the piston. Now this engine does look like it's got some runtime on it, because there's quite a bit of carbon buildup on there. Let's see. And it's an iron piston. Pretty typical of Enya in this age is a steel sleeve and a cast iron piston. That's not unusual at all. Let's see if I can take this guy off. So this does look like it's got some runtime on it. Either that or it's just rusty, but we'll see. I'll clean this thing up. I'm not sure if this thing is going to come off real easily or not, but let's take the front housing off. Now I heated this, but I didn't really direct a whole lot here. Oh, there we go. It popped free there. Now, these are front housing screws. Okay, there we go. Alright, maybe it doesn't have as much runtime as I thought initially. There's not a whole lot of carbon on there at all. This looks very much like that crankshaft that came out of the FP. You know what I am going to do though, I think I'm going to go and heat this up some more. Go put it in my workmate and tap this crankshaft out just so I can kind of make sure it's cleaned up now. Unfortunately, me doing this paper gasket is toast. Not really sure if I should remove this piston or not. I kind of like to, but it doesn't really feel like it wants to come out of there. Again, that may be another thing where it just needs some oil and some heat. So I'm going to go out, heat these items up, drizzle some oil down in there. I'm going to heat these things up and see if I can't get the rest of this disassembled. Okay, so I was able to just pop this thing apart real quick, and looks pretty decent. I mean, I'm going to try and clean this up a little bit, so I'm going to drop that front housing piece in some LA's Totally Awesome cleaner for just a couple of minutes. The crankshaft doesn't look too bad. I can clean that up. Just hold it out with a separate Q-tip. I'm going to dip it in the LA's Totally Awesome cleaner and clean this bore here where the crankshaft went, and you can see how dirty that's coming out. This stuff just takes that carbon off real quick. Since this isn't a bearinged engine, I want to make sure this area is nice and clean and has as little build up there as possible so we get maximum movement, travel. I just do that until that stops looking dirty, and it's looking pretty good right now. Now I might have to finish scraping this paper gasket off. I'll use some Permatex Moto Seal to seal that up, because I obviously don't have any of these little gaskets on hand. That should be all it takes to clean this crankshaft up too. There was just a little bit of carbon on this face here. Nice and clean now. Might wipe it a little bit better, but I've got this thing cleaned up and ready to be reassembled here. So I'm going to lube up, I'll lube up that inner part, if nothing else, this crankshaft. I'm going to try and keep this outer part dry, because that's where I'm going to apply my Permatex Moto Seal gasket maker. And I'm going to apply that with a toothpick. So I have to kind of work quickly here. So I'm just going to kind of quickly put a little bead here. Try not to get it on the lip too much. I've got my piston at bottom dead center, so I'm just going to attempt to engage that. and it's engaged. My screws in here. Now I don't care if that gasket sealer gets on the screw threads at all, because it'll come right off when I disassemble it, or if somebody disassembles this again. But I do want to get them in there and run in, because this stuff sets up pretty quick, and then I want to be able to wipe off the stuff that oozes out. I'm not really going to torque them right now. I'm just going to run them down so they're flush, so I can wipe this excess off the outside of it that's oozed out. Verify operation. Yep, that's good. Use this many times on engines. Seals really well. It's impervious to the glow fuel. So that's sealed up now. Now I can go in and apply my final torque here. Okay, so I've got that lubed up, and that rotates really freely. Rotates really good. Now let me close this lid up here before that gets all over the place. I really didn't do anything to the top of this at all. This head doesn't look bad. So we'll just put that right back on the way it is. Make sure we got a little bit of oil in these holes. A little oil on top of the piston. Yeah, that's too hard to turn over by hand now. I turned over one time and that was it. I'm not even going to be able to do that because it's not keyed like on the OS engine. So I'm just going to have to wait till I strap a prop on there. But, oh yeah, oh boy, I can't even turn that thing over at all. So that looks like that's going to be a nice little engine here. Now I didn't notice any kind of O-ring seal on the bottom of this, nor have I cleaned up this carb much yet. So I think I'm going to do that. That's pretty boring stuff here, so I'm going to turn the video off. Basically all I've got left to do is just do a little bit of LA's Totally Awesome cleaner with a Q-tip here, trying to clean up that carbon a little bit there. The needle operates fine, the throttle moves freely, so put a drop of oil in there and we're good to go. Now this is looking a little dirty. I might try and clean that up a little bit, but other than that, that's it for this little Enya 09 engine.